Hi everyone, we are here today with Dr. Wanda Polzin Holman. She is the Clinical Director of Little Warriors, and we're very excited to be meeting with her today. She's going to tell us a little bit about the amazing work that she's doing and that Little Warriors is doing to help children with safety and many other amazing projects. So thank you very much for meeting me today.
Thank you.
And the first question we wanted to ask, if you can tell us a little bit about Little Warriors and what's the main focus and purpose of the organization.
Sure. So Little Warriors, we are a not-for-profit organization housed here in Canada. We support children, youth, and families from all across Canada. We have had children referred to our treatment center called the Be Brave Ranch. That's just outside of Edmonton, Alberta, and we support children who have a sexual abuse trauma history. We also do prevention, and we have a Prevent It program, as well as advocacy and education.
Wow, that's wonderful. And it's such an important topic. And sometimes we don't want to talk about this topic, but it's so important, and especially the work that you do in helping kids that have gone through such difficult situations to feel like they have a safe place to go and have safe people around them. Can you tell us a little bit more about the ranch and a little bit what the program is and the experience there is?
Yeah. So we have a ranch. It's a camp-like setting. It's in a rural location. It's a place where children and teens and families can come from all over, and they come together as cohorts. So they have episodes of treatment that they come for in our children's program, for separate rounds of therapy, and in the adolescent program, also 4 rounds of therapy. They come and learn and are involved in all of our modalities of treatment. So we have about 11 different types of evidence-based treatment interventions.
Wow.
We work as a multidisciplinary team. So when the children come to the Be Brave Ranch, they are surrounded by other children who have had similar traumatic experiences. And so immediately there's a therapeutic connection for them in that they begin to understand that they're not alone in this. And as part of our treatment, we offer individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy. We have art therapy,
wow.
Music therapy, animal-assisted therapy. So there's all of these different types of modalities that we work with children and teens with, because we're all different, and certain children will sort of gravitate to certain types of therapy, and others not so much. And so we really are able to support them in whatever way that they're supported best.
Wow, that's wonderful. And we've seen some of the videos. The place looks absolutely beautiful, which I'm sure helps.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important what you said about sometimes going to a place where there's other kids that have gone through the same thing and not feeling like that, it's just you. That's very, very important. And we would love to ask you a little bit, what has been like some of the valuable lessons that you've learned through your experience as being the clinical director in this great program?
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of lessons that I've learned. So I guess on one perspective, a lesson is when children and teens and families are given the right resources and the right supports, they are and can be very resilient and come through a lot of traumatic situations. And there's a lot of hope surrounding that. So I would say that that's one part of it. Some of the other aspects that maybe aren't so pleasant is that, there's a consideration that sexual abuse trauma in particular happens with strangers, that we, have stranger danger or things that we have to be aware of that are unknown. And really what the research tells us is that over 90% of offenders to children, work through a grooming process. Oftentimes it starts with a parent or caregiver, but they're well known to the child. The other part of that I have learned very clearly is that, there's about 95% of children and youth that don't actually disclose their trauma. And the latest research that I've read about is that a lot of times adults don't disclose their own child sexual abuse until they're well into their like 40s and 50s or 60s.
Yeah, and that's such an important point, because we found that there's a lot of stigma around it. Like, people, sometimes it's difficult for them to understand why someone wouldn't disclose right away, wait months, like days or months or years. And that's part of, I think, the important job that also, Little Warriors does on education and prevention, I think, to highlight some of the issues that are going on.
Yeah, I think what you're pointing out about the stigma is when children can come together at the Be Brave Ranch and receive treatment, right away the stigma is removed, because they see that there's other children, other youth that are just like them, that have gone through this kind of thing. From a family perspective, families are able to come and not have shame or guilt attached to that as well. And parents can get to meet other parents as well, and really collectively come together to support each other as well as their own families.
That's so important, to be able to support the caregivers of the kids that are going through this. And I think you said something very interesting before that was about grooming, and that it starts with the parents. So does it mean that the groomer starts grooming the parents first and then the kids?
Yeah, oftentimes, offenders or groomers will put out sort of some signs about things, but they're doing it right in front of parents or caregivers. So it's subtle things that don't seem so odd at first, but they're sort of checking the temperature, so to speak, to see how a child will respond or how a parent will respond. And if there isn't a response, it continues to get more sort of brazen and outright, or at the same token, kind of more secretive in that way. And offenders definitely groom parents or caregivers. But also, I would say that in my experience in understanding this, there's different types of offenders too.
Yeah.
We tend to have a stereotype about what an offender and who an offender is. Oftentimes, another lesson and what parents and caregivers should understand is that they can be any gender, they can be any age. We have children who have been offended on by older and other more powerful children.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, because usually we don't address that. Like, most people don't address, but that's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
And I think the part about how to encourage kids to speak out and to say something, it's so important. I think having places where it's safe and where people actually understand what they're going through is so important.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we wanted to ask if there's, like, with all the experience in what you've worked, are there any, because sometimes people think, like, this is such a difficult topic, like, we prefer not to look at it. And we always tell them, well, it's better to look at it, because once you shine a light, like, things start changing. So is there anything that you've seen change in a positive way that, kind of gets you and the team motivated to keep doing this great work that you're all doing?
Yeah, I think that we have an opportunity. It's a very heavy topic, but our staff are incredible and they're really passionate about the work that they do. We have lots of stories to share, lots of hope and lots of successes. For the first time, so Little Warriors has been around over 10 years. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and we had children and families and caregivers come from all over the place, including Canada, US, Australia, Europe. And they returned back to the treatment center, and so we got to hear some of the positive stories. And some of the stories are really incredible, to the point that we've had some of our children who went through our children's program 10 years ago are now adults. And they've come back and shared stories that they've gone on to be in a helping profession, social work or child and youth care or psychology. We have one girl who's gone on to be in her law program in Australia.
Wow.
We've had several of our children, our teens who are now adults, who have come back to actually be students, practicum students in psychology and social work and child and youth care. So again, if they're given the right resources and supports, we're just seeing that, they can really flourish, and they do flourish.
And that's amazing to know that even if someone has gone through something very, very difficult, with the right support, I think the right view and understanding about the situation, like a lot of good things can happen. A lot of these organizations actually start because of the experiences that people go through, and then they want to do something to help and contribute as well.
Yeah, that's exactly how Little Warriors started, actually. We have our founder, Glory Meldrum. She herself was sexually abused as a child, and it was sort of the fire under her, so to speak, that really encouraged her and built the dream of Little Warriors.
Wow, and what a great project she did.
Yeah.
And we wanted to ask if there are any tips or advice that you have for other either people or organizations that are either working in this area or want or are thinking of working in this area from what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, first off, we have a free prevention program. It's called Prevent It, and it can be taken online very quickly, a certificate after 90 minutes. So I think anyone who's interested in learning more, that's a good place to start. We have a website with a lot of resources. We also have our own outcome measures. So we do pre-post measures to all of our treatment. And we've published some research literature in this area. So if people are interested in that, they can certainly go onto our website. And the other piece is we have an online program called our Be Brave Bridge program. For children and their caregivers, also for parents to be able to really learn how to address a lot of the topics that we've talked about today. And all of our programming is free. We consider ourselves barrier-free, and we do our best to be able to support people with the knowledge and information that they need in this area.
Wow, that's wonderful. And we'll share all the links also under the video so that people can. It's just like a short program, like this Prevented program is 90 minutes, I believe, right? So it's 90 minutes, but it can make such a huge difference in either your kids or other children. I think sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's grandparents or teachers or other experts, but it can make such a huge difference just to have some information about what we can all do to make a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, no, thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate it. And we will be sharing a little bit more information about Little Warriors and the amazing work that they are doing. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah.